is the most intense sport? What sport or activity feels the most difficult? What probably springs to mind are things like the Tour de France, the Badwater Ultramarathon, Ironman triathlons, the Race Across America, or like swimming the English Channel. No doubt, one of those, or something like those, involves the highest total amount of effort. But those kinds of sports are very long in duration, and so I don't think they get near the maximum intensity, because no one can maintain maximum intensity levels for very long. I think that sports that are very intense but relatively short in duration get closer to the maximum intensity. For example, boxing is known to be absolutely grueling from a cardio point of view. How did Floyd Mayweather beat Conor McGregor? Well, partly, he just kept the fight going long enough that McGregor was too tired to hold his gloves up anymore. But what sport or activity has the maximum possible intensity? The very highest intensity that a human body can withstand? I don't know, but I would like to suggest a contender that most people are probably not aware of: the sport of tower running or competitive stair climbing. A couple of weeks ago, I competed in a race to the top of the tallest building on the west coast of the United States. I found out that I'm not as tough as I thought, and I was introduced to a truly incredible sport. For anybody who's new to the channel, I'm Rob Peterson. I just turned 56, and I'm mostly a calisthenics and gymnastics athlete. I haven't talked about it much on this channel, but I also train stair running pretty intensely. In fact, I am a pretty badass stair runner, or so I thought. Turns out that I may be more of a big fish in a small pond. I primarily run on these stairs. This is an outdoor stairway near my house. It has 97 stairs, plus a little bit of uphill on the landings. I used to be faster, but even at my age, I can get from bottom to top in about 20 seconds. And in my normal training, I do 15 laps in 22.5 minutes, which is 90 seconds per lap. I average 35 or 40 seconds up and 50 to 55 seconds down. I don't know if that sounds fast to you, but it's pretty fast. A lot of people work out on these stairs, but I go years in between encountering anyone who's as fast as I am. And on the rare occasions when I have seen someone faster than me, they're obviously decades younger than I am. I also regularly run these with a 40-pound weighted vest, and even with the vest, it's rare that anyone passes me. So I had it in my head that I am an elite stair runner, and I thought I would do really well in the race to the top of the US Bank Tower in Los Angeles. In fact, and this is pretty funny in retrospect, I assumed that I would easily win in my age category. But I could not have been more wrong. It turns out that this is a serious competitive sport. People came from all over the world to run this race. The assumption that I would win on my first try with very little specific training is like saying that because I won a 10K race in Wichita, I assume I can win the Boston Marathon. Before I talk about the race, I feel compelled to mention this. I called the US Bank Tower the tallest building on the West Coast, which is not technically true. It's not officially the tallest due to an amusing ruling from the Council on Tall Buildings and Urban Habitat that decorative spires count toward a building's official height. The top floor of the Wilshire Grand, the official tallest building on the West Coast, is 140 feet lower than the top floor of the US Bank Tower. From the top of the US Bank Tower, you look way down onto the top of the Wilshire Grand. The US Bank Tower has the highest occupied space and the tallest continuous stairwell of any building west of the Mississippi River. The race goes to the roof, which is the 75th floor, and is 1,003 feet above the pavement. So, nonsensical architectural rules aside, the tallest possible stairway race in the western United States would be in the US Bank Tower. Alright, back to the main topic. I managed to convince the organizers to let me into the elite runners group. And I showed up the morning of the race ready to show these amateurs what running stairs is all about. However, the first thing I saw when I got there was this guy, who was warming up on the stairs outside the building. He was flying up the stairs like a dry leaf blown by a hurricane. And I said, "Oh, that's what a real stair runner looks like." I instantly knew that this guy was going to be the winner. And as I waited to start the race, I noticed that I was surrounded by a whole bunch of people who looked like they were in incredible shape and who looked very serious. As my start time approached, I was feeling less and less elite. Anyway, my time came and I started up the stairs. I knew I was in danger of burning myself out, so I tried not to go too fast at the beginning. But it was easy at first, and I felt great for about the first 15 floors. I was doing maybe 6 flights a minute at the beginning. But by the 20th floor, it started to get really painful. And I mean painful. I labored to maintain my pace at a level where I felt like I was just barely able to stay conscious. And that's why I think this is among the most intense possible physical activities. I simply don't believe that a human body can voluntarily push itself into a greater level of pain than I was in. Maybe pain isn't the best word. It's very hard to describe. It felt like how I imagined being on the verge of drowning would feel. Like if you fell overboard in the ocean, and you'd been treading water for like 4 hours, and you were just at the point of exhaustion, and you were struggling to keep your head above water, and you just couldn't get enough oxygen. It felt like that moment the entire time. During the run, I encountered 6 other runners. 3 people passed me, and I passed 3 people. And all of us had the most scary, labored breathing that you ever heard. None of us tried to talk. None of us could have said one word, not without slowing down. I eventually dragged myself to the top in 16 minutes and 13 seconds. Here are a couple of pictures of me on the last few stairs. As you can see, I looked like I was about to throw up. But the people holding the cameras were yelling "smile" at me. The message gradually filtered into my brain through the fog of pain, and I managed a feeble smile. During most of the race, I felt like I was very close to my absolute limit, but I might have been able to go a little bit faster. Like, if I had bet somebody $10,000 that I could do it in 16 minutes flat, I probably could have done that. But if I had bet somebody $100,000 that I could do it in 15 minutes, I would have died in the attempt. I would have straight up had a heart attack. Or I would have said, screw it, I'll just declare bankruptcy. Now you might be asking, why would anyone do this if it's so painful? That's a reasonable question, and I'm sure that not everyone is going to enjoy pushing up against their absolute limits like this. But the reason it was so painful for me and for all of the elite runners is that all of us were trying to do it in the shortest possible time. Most of those people were trying to beat their personal records, and at least one of them was trying to break the world record. You don't have to do it like that. Most people do these stair climbs just for fun. Many people who did this stair climb took more than an hour to get to the top. At that pace, it's not so hard. Plus, it's a really great community event. Firemen do the stair climb in full gear, many workplaces form teams and they all do it together. The proceeds go to charity. It's a lot of fun. These stair climbs are not only for elite athletes and masochists. Now, I want to spend a couple of minutes talking about some of the athletes because they are truly incredible. First, the guy that won, Wai-Ching So, or So Wai-Ching, depending on your cultural point of view. He did the race in 9 minutes and 22 seconds, and he was bitterly disappointed by that time. The all-time record is 8:46, and Wai-Ching was hoping to get 8 minutes and 15 seconds, but he had a bad day. Of course, a bad day for him is much better than practically anyone else's best day. He said in an interview that he averaged 10 flights a minute for the first 2 minutes, and nearly maintained that pace for the next 2 minutes. Think about that. That would be an all-out sprint for me. And again, I'm very fast on stairs. That's 6 seconds per flight. That's insane. I might be able to maintain that pace for 3 flights. I wonder if any of these guys have ever measured their VO2 max. I bet it would be off the charts. Wai-Ching would probably break the world record. Now, Wai-Ching is currently ranked the #1 tower runner in the world, and he's 28 years old, so he's in his physical prime. But I want to spend a minute talking about some of the older athletes because I'm particularly interested in the athletic performance of older people. Like I said, I went into the race naively expecting to easily be the best in my age category. I was very wrong about that, but I'd really like to know the answer to the following question. How big of a difference is there between the top athlete, Wai-Ching, who could definitely break 9 minutes in this race on a good day, and whoever is the top athlete in my age category? How big a difference does age actually make in this sport? Unfortunately, they didn't break the participants down by age, but I talked to several of them and I looked up several more after the race, and I think I have a pretty good answer to my question. So first, there's this guy, Ignacio Manrique. I talked to him after the race, super nice guy. He did the race in 14:09, about 2 minutes faster than me, and he's 62, or anyway, I found online that he was born in 1960, so roughly 6 years older than I am. That's extremely impressive. Then there's Lisa Ziegel, who finished the race in 16:49, so I did beat her by a little bit. She's actually one of the people I passed. I also found an approximate age for her online. She's either 63 or 64, so she's roughly 8 years older than I am, and she's a woman. Now, I hope I'm not being sexist, But wow, that's incredible. But the person that impressed me the most is this guy, Charlie. I didn't talk to him at the race, but I emailed him, and he very kindly answered my questions, including how old he is. It turns out that on the day of the race, he was about to turn 54, and I was about to turn 56. So he's almost exactly 2 years younger than I am, which is a pretty direct comparison. He's a very serious competitor, and he's impressively fast. He finished the race in 11 minutes and 41 seconds, and as far as I could tell, he was by far the fastest person in the mid-50s age category. So I think that's a pretty good comparison. The overall winner was 28 years old and did the race in just over 9 minutes. The best guy in my age category did the race in just over 11.5 minutes, a difference of roughly 2.5 minutes, or the older athlete took around 25% longer to finish the race than the younger athlete. So 2.5 decades makes a difference, but not as big of a difference as you might think. You can still do this sport at quite an elite level, at least into your 50s and 60s. One difficult thing about this sport is that if you wanted to be really good at it, you would need at least one very tall building to train in. As I found out, going up and down roughly 4 flights of stairs many times is a very different thing than going continuously up 50 or 75 flights. For example, Charlie lives in Singapore, and he has access to several very tall buildings, including a 70-story building. I found a bio for him online, and it says that he trains 3 to 4 times a week, and he does 200 to 300 flights each time. I'm pretty hardcore, but I'm not sure that I could commit to that level of training. Anyway, I don't have access to any very tall buildings, so I don't think I could ever train this sport seriously. But here's another thing. I'm too big for this sport. Specifically, my upper body is too big. It sounds very weird to say that. I think of myself as very small. I mean, I feel pretty small compared to the big name calisthenics guys. And it's even worse out in the real world. Most of my male friends who are my age outweigh me by 40 to 100 pounds. But I'm much bigger than the tower runners. Most of the top men are super skinny. They're muscular, and some of them have big legs, but they have very small upper bodies. For example, in his bio, Charlie says that his ideal competition weight is 121 pounds. That's about 25 pounds lighter than I am. And he's about the same height as I am. And Wai Ching looks like he weighs under 100 pounds. I'm never going to be great at this sport because my main goals involve sick upper body strength. I'd love to gain about 10 more pounds of muscle. Nothing against the tower runners, of course. A very light upper body is what they need to excel at their sport. I respect that. They're not training for looks, they're training for function. And I'm going to finish with a plug for the sport. First, I'm a huge advocate of running stairs generally. You can get an amazing cardio workout in a very short time because it's so difficult. Unlike running on flat ground, you have to do work when you run stairs. I mean that in the physics sense. You have to do work against gravity. Because of that, it's also a strength building exercise. If you run a lot of stairs, your legs will get bigger and stronger. Plus, it's low impact. Anyway, if this is your kind of thing, and if you could get access to some tall buildings, you might consider getting into the sport. There's nothing quite like pushing your body to the absolute limit like this. If you do get involved in the sport, you'll find yourself in an amazing community of people, many of whom train together, and some of whom travel and do these races all over the world. And if you want to just try it, maybe do one of these stair climbs just for fun, I'd highly recommend that too. You'll get in much better shape just by doing a little of this type of training. And here's something that you might not have thought of. Doing one of these stair climbs is a way to see a part of the building that people don't normally have access to. When I climbed the US Bank Tower, I got to hang out on the roof, the actual roof. It was cool. They let me stay and look around as long as I wanted to. So, while I'm not going to get seriously into the sport because it would conflict with my main goals, I am interested enough to try it again next year. I'm going to try to find a tall building to do some training in, and I'm going to try to break 15 minutes. Anyway, thanks for watching. Leave a comment if you have any thoughts. Don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoyed the video and subscribe for more content like this. Good luck with your training, and I'll see you in the next video.